It's like completely diminishes my whole entire like livelihood being like podcasting. He asked me what I did and I was like, podcasting. He's like, that's your qualification? That's how you make your money? Sir, how do you make your money? Berating women, being a narcissist on a TV show? That's how you make your money? That's what I should have said. I didn't know who he was. I didn't know who this man was on the show. I didn't know who anyone was. I didn't know who Jesse Smollett was. I didn't know what he went through. I would have asked him more questions. I would have been like more involved in that. I didn't know anyone's story.
Hi besties, welcome back to my channel. Kody Brown on Special Forces right now is something that if you aren't watching it, it's Kody Brown. He is by far one of the most physically fit on the show, which is wild. But you know, when you're apparently all you do all day is work out and cut trees down and yell at women, you can spend time climbing up and down mountains and getting prepared to get your butt kicked on a show called Special Forces. His physical fitness isn't the issue for many of the people that he starred with in the show. And some of the cast members are being a lot more open about their feelings about Kody than others. Recently, Brie, who's on the show, she spoke about Kody and how he diminished what she does for a living. She is on a podcast and she's a podcaster. And when Kody asked her about her job, he goes, "Oh, that's your qualification? Like, that's how you got here? All you are is a podcaster?" Proving that Kody doesn't respect people that do the kind of job that I do, but we already know that, right? And maybe this is why he doesn't go on podcasts. I don't know. But watch Kody become a podcaster when he has no other opportunities left. And Bree restarted her podcast, and she had more to say about Kody, about what she thought about him, about who he was, about how he treated people, about her views on him. And most of the people walking into this knew nothing of who he was because I guess unless you live under a rock or you're under the age of 30, maybe you don't pay attention to Sister Wives or you just don't care about trash reality television. I don't know. I have no idea. So Kody was able to fool some of these people into believing that this really was about him having a second chance, but not everyone.
If I knew who Kody Brown was, I wouldn't have been so like nonchalant. I thought he was like mentally slow. To be honest, I was like, I felt bad for him because I was like, oh, he has like a, like, you know, when you feel bad for old people, I felt bad for him because it felt like he had no social cues, which he doesn't. And I don't feel bad saying any of this after I know who he is and like what he thinks about women and how he treated women. And yeah, like during the show, I felt bad being mean to him because I'm like, he's slow. You know what I mean? Like, you can't be mean to someone that has special needs. That's crazy. But he doesn't have special needs. He's just mentally, this man is an insane person and he treats women so badly, so poorly. So
apparently there's going to be more that comes up between Brianna and Mr. Kody Brown, but Gia Giudice was interviewing one of the male cast members who was on the show with her, Ravi Patel. And Ravi Patel, I think he's an actor. He was trying to toe the line between being, you know, seeing the best in people. And you have to remember a lot of these people didn't know Kody from anyone when they walked into the situation. So they don't know anything about his backstory. They really don't know beyond the fact that he was what he told them that he was a polygamist. But whatever Kody says, you can only take with a grain of salt. And because he's such a skilled manipulator and liar, he will tell people whatever it is that he thinks is what they want to hear. And he can paint a story in almost every single scenario where he's the victim in every situation. And so he will portray himself as a victim of the alienation that he's done to his children and the abuse that he's inflicted upon them. So take that with a grain of salt when I tell you what I'm going to tell you. So Robbie was on Gia's podcast and he was talking about how, you know, Kody's backstory was probably the most interesting. However, because of his background growing up as a fundamentalist, and apparently at some point in time, Kody gets into like the way that he grew up. And I don't know if he's going to talk about that he was abused as a child. Who knows? But what Robbie did say was that on the first challenge, when Kody was acting like a madman and he was running up and down the hill and zigzagging past everyone and carrying bags up and down and just outperforming even professional athletes, Robbie said his first thought was that Kody was on drugs.
Where
I
they only
remember
called all
Kody.
that state together.
I remember Kody was, and
You
that
do?
was the first time I thought he must be on amphetamines because he was racing up and down that hill, and I'm like, this is not. I was like, I'm in really good shape, and I'm almost positive I'm crushing it right now. And he was like zipping by me almost like a cartoon, and I was like, something's wrong. This guy just did meth. That's the only way this could be possibly happening. Like flying by professional athletes.
Oh
Did
yeah.
you see him on that mountain?
Yeah.
It was unlike anything I've ever seen. And he was like that throughout the competition. That guy
The whole
deserved, like, his personality is like a earnest 12-year-old boy, like a guy who's
yeah.
really excited to be there and is kind of always saying what he's thinking in his head out loud. But, you know, is always giving everyone unsolicited tips on what needs to happen next, but really means well.
This isn't the first time someone that's met Kody personally has thought he's on some kind of substance, and it's been part of the fans' speculation for years. There are whole threads on the subreddits and Sister Wives where people debate about what substance they think Kody's on based upon how he acts. There's been long debates on if he takes testosterone, if he's using growth hormone, if he's taking substances like amphetamines, if he's using snow, the powdery stuff, something to give him boundless amounts of energy. And I don't know. I mean, we've seen that his mood has changed in age. We see that he's very erratic. We notice that his rage is out of control, but a lot of that can also be narcissism, right? And if he's raging out like that or if he has boundless amounts of energy, he could just be a narcissist that's on a narcissistic high because he's getting attention, right? So, like, when a narcissist is in a situation where they can outperform and be the best, they can take the energy and the supply from the people around them, and they use that, and it almost like makes them like drunk on power and makes them like drunk on energy. They get energy and they suck the energy out of other people. They are like energy vultures. So part of him having that level of energy could be his own narcissism fueling this to make it seem like he, you know, is the best. So he looks the best. But the pattern of what he said is that he's like a 12-year-old boy and he just says whatever he's thinking, and he has he doesn't consider what he's saying about other people. It's just like the dialogue that happens in his head, he verbalizes it, which everyone knows about Kody. He has no actual filter, right? No filter. And not having a filter can also be a thing with narcissists because they don't have empathy, right? And they don't have care or concern about how their actions impact other people. He's someone that for years has used cruelty, manipulation, calculated, impulsive, lack of awareness because he's all about him, right? So when he's talking about him being like a 12-year-old because he's like all he thinks about is whatever he thinks about, it's because Kody is self-centered, right? So I'm imagining being in like close proximity with him and he's just verbal diarrhea out of his mouth all the time saying whatever he thinks. And Robbie paints it like he means well, but he did sort of put a pin in there because he said, well, I didn't have the same experience with him because I wasn't actually sleeping by him, right? So the people that were the closest to him actually had the most issues with him because of the way that he treated people. So with Brianna, she talked about how he was very dismissive to women. He, like, in challenges, he never stopped to consider the impact of what he was doing with other teams. So even though he could excel physically, it wasn't always about him performing, he couldn't actually think about the team because all he cared about was him outshining everyone else. So he doesn't think about other people. He's self-centered and self-motivated. And Jesse Smollett was also on Gia's podcast like a week before or last week, and he was speaking about how when he was with Kody, like face to face, and he asked him, and Kody introduced himself to him, and he's like, "Oh, what's your last name?" And then he said his last name, and he's told him Smollett, and he's like, "Oh yeah, Jesse Smollett." And then on the show, Jesse said there was something about Kody that he didn't really like. Jesse said that he didn't see what Kody said about him until he saw that episode. And then Kody muttered and laughed under his breath and said, "Ha ha 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 ha, second chances," which again is Kody being a narcissist. And I think just thinking he's better than everyone. No, Kody didn't get sent to prison for staging and faking a hate crime. And no, he didn't spend time behind bars. He should have. No, he didn't, have a massive public fall from grace that resulted in a criminal conviction like Jesse. But Cody's, been running from the law his whole adult life. He's for sure committed all kinds of illegal acts on television and lived in a polygamous cult for, the better part of his adult life. So it's not like he's any better than anyone else. The picture that has been portrayed by Kody that I think is really the most disturbing, though, is that because nobody knew him or most people didn't know who he was, everything that they learned about him from him, they took at face value because they didn't think that he would have the capacity to lie. And that's, I think, where people like Kody are dangerous, right? So a whole new audience is being introduced to Kody, knowing full well the wrath and the damage that he has caused to over 20 people's lives in his immediate family. The physical abuse, the financial abuse, the psychological abuse, the verbal abuse, all of these things that have occurred. It's just like there's so many to count here, and these people are on the show and they're saying, well, he's really trying to become a phoenix and become reborn and become someone new. And he really does want to turn his life around. And he really does think that this can be his second chance and his opportunity to prove himself and put that past behind him. And the problem is that these people don't know who Kody is and they don't know what he's done. And narcissists are the kings and queens of reinvention. And so what they do is they move from one community to the next. Once they've like burned down one area, they move on to the next community and they reinvent themselves as someone completely else. If I'm not a psychologist, but he almost seems sociopathic in this, where he's just, I'm going to ignore who I was all of these years and I'm just going to just create this whole new person. And the whole world out there is going to forget about who I am because I'm going to prove my new arc is that I'm this guy now. Right. And some of these people buy into it. Gia's like, poor Gia. She's like, I just think he misses his kids and he misses being a dad. I think he only lives with one child. No, Gia, he pushed out all of his kids. He financially and verbally and emotionally abused them. He neglected them, abandoned them. There's a list of things. He lies about them on the television show for a living. He has painted them as abusive villains that are unsafe and dangerous when he's the one that's unsafe and dangerous and unhinged. And so he is fooling people. And I think that's the disturbing part, is that people that are meeting him that don't know him are buying into this into a degree. Not everyone bought into it, but all it takes are a few people to buy into this new concept. And then Kody has a whole new career of being that guy. But then there's a wake of bodies behind him that have been damaged and destroyed and annihilated. And just like Kody picks up and moves all the time and goes on to new, this is what he's doing with special forces. It's like, okay, so Sister Wives, everything blew up and it was horrible. And I get all kinds of negative attention on that show and nobody likes me. So I'm going to do something new in reality television where people actually like me and I can get positive feedback. And if I just play a role of somebody else while I'm doing this, I can be successful again. He's acting like a damn sociopath. But at the heart, nothing has changed about him. Nothing. I don't think there's real change or real opportunity to change unless he restores his relationships with his kids, unless he repairs and repents and actually means it and does what's right. But he's incapable of those things. So it's just this constant reinvention and reattempts to fool the masses. And the only thing that I'm going to say to everyone, if you're new to this, is don't be fooled by Kody. He is a monster. And Brianna said it straight. Like, had she known who he was and what he was capable of and how he treats people, she would have been a hell of a lot harder on him and let him have it for the way that he treated her. I think men are more permissive of his behavior and they excuse it because that the bro code maybe, but most women that meet Kody, they know who he is, they have him pegged, and don't be fooled, America. That's what I'm getting out of this is it's disturbing, and Kody, ugh, I will be so disgusted if he somehow becomes America's new hero. So what are your thoughts about this? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed and click the bell so you never miss a video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye, besties.